Welcome back. It's episode 8, Ocho, The Fall of Plaguestone, with the Azmyth Busters players. When last we met, the group had just returned from the old orchard, where they had an unexpected encounter with some angry insects. With Amora's help, they got to the bottom of it, fed on some honey and biscuits, and continued with their investigation of the poisoning of the caravan leader, Bort. At the end of episode 7, the group had returned back to the stables to try to get to the bottom of what was going on. And I believe Ulf and Ulf had been recently removed from their slumber, not awoken from it, but at least removed from it nonetheless, and had been drugged down the long, steep stair ladder apparatus that gets you up to the second story. Some of you had also, I believe Desna and Electra had gone with Amora back into the kitchen. She was eager to get to the bottom of things, actually finding out about the death after she had already left. Actually finding out from our group who went there to ask her questions about it. So you've pulled Ulf and Ulf down from their perches.
That's right.
You've drugged them basically into where the main gates would open. You've drugged them to that area there, and as I said before, no manner of bouncing their skulls off of the stairs and dragging them through the dirt of the stables. To no avail does that wake either one of them. And in fact, Ulf seems to have a very odd smile on his face. They both are snoring, continuing to snore through the whole experience. The rest of the caravanners, the rest of the teamsters, of course, have been awakened by the ruckus that all of this has created, and many of them are still in their bedclothes, some with their sheets still wrapped around them, and looking down on you. So you have got yourself a little bit of a balcony audience, if you will, looking down on you for the rest of the people staying in the caravan in the caravan rooms here in the stables.
All right. So, I mean, I'm leaning down, kind of like bending low, squatting, kind of like getting a good look at these sleeping galoots. Like, I mean, after the dragon I gave him, like, he kind of stands up, looks around. I think them done being ensorcelled. There's no way they could have not woken up from the rough ride I just gave him. And kicks him in the hip just for good measure.
Okay. Is Daisy trained or better in medicine?
Let's see. Hell no.
Okay.
Flunked to that class.
All right. It looks like both of them have rosy red noses. Their noses are just bright, like the capillaries in their noses have just shattered, and they're just very, very rosy red noses. Their cheeks are also more swollen. Their faces are certainly a lot more swollen than you remember them when you were working with them or working around them on the caravan, likely because they've been drinking almost nonstop since the time they hit Etrin's Folly. They have not stopped pouring it down. Where everyone else stopped to have a meal, they went to go tap another keg.
Yeah.
The Theron will walk out and examine the dipshits.
Okay. All right. You can make a medicine check on him if you like.
I got a 21 total, and I am trained.
Yeah, so their clothes, their sweat, everything about them smells like old dirty liquor. You believe they're probably both in a near state of comatose because of the level and the amount of poisons that they consumed in such a short amount of time.
Now we're talking alcohol, not
alcohol.
with a lot of
Yes,
poison. Okay.
we're dealing with alcohol here, and like I said, you know that they haven't stopped drinking since you arrived in town, yeah, so they have drunken themselves into comatose level unconsciousness.
Great.
Remember your 20s?
Actually didn't drink much in my 20s, but okay.
Me neither. I waited till my 30s and went international.
So I taking a look and talking to people, we know that the crates were taken by Bort and these two.
Yeah.
I'm like, we need to keep these, even though I hate to say it, we need to keep these two safe. They're the only ones who know who we're going after. I'm puzzled that after the crates were delivered is when Bort met his end. But these two seem to just be drunk out of their skulls.
Right.
Minor convenience to me.
There was either a newfound kinship with Farmer Elam, or they knew each other and were drinking buddies from the past. You're not quite sure, but it seemed like when they spotted each other, they kind of gravitated together because, as I said, Elam also consumed alcohol at a superhuman level.
So when Theron said, "Let's tie them up," I started tying them. Started binding their hands and feet so they can't run away or
with what?
Anyone. Piece of rope.
Okay.
I have a 50-foot length of rope, so I'll just cut off sections of that with my
Sure.
long sword and use them to tie their hands and feet separately.
Sure. Why don't you make an acrobatics check for me, just to give me a clue as to how good you are with your knots, how well you do.
No, you don't need to cut a rope. You just use the tie them both together. You use the whole all 50 feet of it.
11.
You just make a spool.
Yeah, Actually, that tree over there looks like it'd probably be sturdy enough to hold both of them.
I rolled an 11.
11. Okay. So you tie them both up individually. Do you then want to tie them together or to something like Daisy's suggesting, to a tree?
or maybe we should take them inside.
Yeah, we can take them inside and tie them to one of the beams.
There's beams. Yeah, I was going to say on the lower level, there's plenty of beams that extend up and hold that upper level.
We just don't want them to go anywhere.
Right.
All right. So you tie them up, you drag them back inside, away from the doorway and into where you can prop them up, because they're not standing by any means, but you can at least prop them up in a sitting position with their backs against the beam, with both of them, facing away from each other, and get a good coil of rope going. So I'll need an acrobatics check for that. Not work too. If there's more than one of you working at it, somebody may make an assist as well. Is anybody helping Simon, or are you just leaving Simon to do all the rope work himself?
No, I'll help Simon.
Okay.
Let's see. That's a 14, so I think that's just shy of an assist.
Okay. I roll a 13 for mine.
Okay. So yeah, you loop them around a couple times. You had them individually tied together behind their backs, is what you tried to do as best as possible. You loop the rope through that a little bit. You did the best you can. You're feeling pretty confident that if you had that much rope around you, you wouldn't be able to move.
If I had that much rope around me, I wouldn't be able to see.
Yeah. The only thing that really changes with Ulf and Ulf is that when you put them in the sitting position, when you put them kind of upright, even tied together, their heads will still slump to the side and they won't snore when they're in the upright position. At some point, Tamley will come down and she will bring one of the blankets from one of their beds, not sure which. It was pulled off the bed with them and left into the hallway at the top of the stairs. So she snatches that up. Excuse me. She snatches that up as she's coming down the ladder. And she's looking at you. She's looking at everyone concerned. She kind of throws the blanket around them and kind of does a quick little kind of tie off so that they're at least covered with the blanket as best as possible.
I'm gonna walk in from the kitchen as
Sure.
Simon and Theron are tying them up and kind of look at them. What's up, guys? We're tying people up now. Is there what are we doing?
It looks like we found the murders. It's
Well,
Ulf and Elf. I'm just playing.
That's
with
not true.
They just passed out.
So we found that the carts had been delivered before the dinner, and a series of carts had been delivered by Bort. These two helped deliver the carts. So with Bort gone, these two are the only two who know where the various crates, I should say, went. So we need to keep them safe, and they are comatose drunk.
And we think that they were delivered to somebody who has an initial
H.
An initial.
Do not know whom.
That's all we know right now.
Well,
It is true. It was the three of them that made the delivery as soon as we got into town. Bort was quite insistent that I stay at the feed mill and make sure that all of the arrangements were made. In fact, on that note, there is a discrepancy with the fees to be paid to Dalma, with the presumption that Bort had worked it into your passage budget. And in fact, I cannot find any record in the ledgers of that at all. She is happy to be quite fair under the circumstances with you, but would like to speak to you in the morning about such matters. I'm sorry, it's more complicated than it needs to be.
I don't understand.
What don't you understand, Thorn?
Why this is our problem.
Well, it's only your problem if you have an issue with paying her for staying at the feed mill. If you were going to make other arrangements, then I suppose you wouldn't need to pay her. The presumption that the caravan had it budgeted for you is the part that I'm afraid was a mistake and
No, it wasn't about the budget. It was about driving off the wolves. This was our reward for that. That was clearly stated. So it is the caravan's responsibility.
Responsibility or not, the coin is not there, or at least that I'm aware of. Bort has hidden his funds better than I even knew myself.
Again, not our problem.
well, it seems as though that's not our main issue right now anyways. I don't see any of us sleeping at this moment. So at the very least, we can wait till the morning to try to worry about this issue. Hopefully, we can talk with Delma and work something out.
I agree. I will spend the rest of the evening down here watching over the boys, just in case.
Yeah, I'll join.
As you said, I would not like to see anything happen to them. So the rest of the Teamsters are largely unexcited with what's happening at this point after the big guffaw, the big crescendo, the cacophony, if you will. It's Paizo. They love that word. So they, many of them go back to their beds. Some are grumbling, some have nothing to say at all. They kind of go back and seek their rest. Tamley will go upstairs. She will grab her bedding and she will bring her bedding down and find a place downstairs to prop herself up, largely on one of the opposite beams, so that she's looking right at the twins. The evening will be largely uneventful after that. Is everybody staying upstairs in their rooms, or did you want to do something else? I know, Theron, you said you were going to hang out down below with Tamley.
Yeah, I'm going to watch these two.
I suppose
Okay.
there's really no other place for us to go for the night, whether it costs coin or not. There's not much we can do about it today, but we definitely have to get some sleep before we try to figure out what the hell is going on.
I'm going to remain down with Theron and the dipshit brothers,
Okay.
just in case they decide to pull anything.
If Simon is sleeping with them, I'll grab a pillow and some bedding and lie down on the floor, curl up somewhere.
All right. So it's a slumber party down in the stables over watching Ulf and Ulf. When Electra comes back, when Amora is done in the kitchen and she finally locks up and says goodnight, Electra offers to walk her back to the orchard and tells everyone not to stay up.
Yeah, I kick back in a chair, put my feet up in another chair, and just like, and before long, he's sawing logs.
Sure. The night is completely without event. The only sounds that you hear are the snoring of both teamsters above you and the two brothers below. There is quite a chorus of snoring that occurs. Most of you are able to sleep right through it. Certainly, if you being with the caravan for enough days, you've gotten kind of used to it, and some of you may even add to it, for all you know. But the rest of the evening does, as I say, go uneventfully, and you are woken in the morning as Delma is coming into the stables. If everyone downstairs who decided to sleep downstairs with the twins, if everyone downstairs would make a perception check for me. Your rolls will determine whether you have dozed off or whether you are awake at the time that she comes in.
I got a 22.
You are awake.
What do you add your
I'm
perception
an early
with?
riser.
What was that, Dana?
What do you add the perception check with again? Oh, I see
A
it
D-
right here. I see it right here. I got a 14.
14. Okay.
24.
All right. Theron and Daisy, you're both awake. Desna, you're asleep. Kira, you were upstairs or downstairs?
I was downstairs in the stables.
Downstairs.
And I got a 10 total.
A 10. So you're also asleep at the time. And Simon, what was yours?
I rolled a 1,
Nice.
and it resolves to a 5.
Right. So as I was saying, some of you are adding to that chorus of snoring. And Simon, you are the A soprano. Like demons are coming out of your face. Like sometimes the rest of your party will just sit there and watch you snore, amazed at the sounds that come out of you. And afraid to do anything about it because, you know, you're a goblin. You do have sharp teeth. So yeah, you're sound asleep as well. When Delma comes through, she comes through the door that's next to the large gate, and she's got a basket kind of nestled under her arm, and it's got a piece of material, a piece of fabric or a napkin or something kind of draped over the top of that. So from the cool morning air, you can see steam rising off the contents of her basket. She sees the three of you who are awake, and you look towards her and you exchange smiles, and she gives you a little bit of a kind of a motherly kind of a wink as she comes through and closes the door behind her. The smell of blueberries or baked blueberries hits you like a upside the face. And if you had a perception less than 15 but more than 10, you wake up when the smell hits you as well. So it wasn't the sound that woke you up, it was like, oh, what's that? That's delicious. She comes over to where you're all downstairs, and she's got a smile on her face, like she's amused, but her eyes are kind of confused that all of you slept on the floor in the stables in kind of a little thing. And she says, I brought you all some muffins. And she pulls back the fabric, and steam bellows out of the basket. And she takes one for herself and sets the basket down in the middle of you. And at this point, Simon would need a good shake to wake up. He'd be the only one that the smell doesn't even wake him up. So, and she waits for everyone to take one of her muffins.
Yeah. And then I put that muffin under Simon's nose. Just kind of like.
Well, that's one way to wake him up. You can just kind of prop it. Zabook.
Theron does not take a muffin.
Okay.
He's getting to the point where he really doesn't trust these people, and he just doesn't trust berries that are that violent with their smell. I mean, punch me in the face.
Well, as I said, she took the top one off the basket, and she breaks hers open. And while she's waiting for everyone to kind of wake up, and she's eating hers, she's not waiting.
I miss
And she
Cookie's
says,
food.
Yeah, you do. You do miss Cookie's food. And Cookie, unfortunately, insulted Amora on the very first night. And any chance of them working together in her kitchen is unlikely to happen without a sincere apology. And that's also unlikely to happen.
So are there any turnips in these?
In the muffins?
Right.
Just blueberries.
Turnip flour.
Yeah, just blueberries and sugar and flour and the stuff you normally bake with, that kind of stuff.
Fantastic.
They're delicious. She gets about halfway through hers, and she says, I reckon that Tamley told you about the clerical error.
She did. It's not our problem.
What's not your problem, dear?
We came on the invite of the caravan, so you're going to have to deal with the caravan for the bill.
Well, I was about to say it's a little difficult to try to charge you a few coppers a night if you're sleeping on the floors of the stables. That's highly irregular. I was actually going to suggest that that in light of your investigation, your pending investigation, and the favors that you have already done for my family here at the feed mill, that I would be willing to waive your fees.
Well, Tanlu will be happy to hear that.
For your records, if you're concerned, it is about 5 silver pieces a day for all of you. And that was not budgeted into Bort's ledgers, unfortunately, or the monies that he gave me. And all I ask in return is a favor.
What kind of favor?
She says, my father, the mayor, does not get out very much anymore because his legs do not work as well as they once did. Nor do his eyes. And I was hoping, as a favor to me, that perhaps you could spend a portion of your day today and take him about town. We've converted a cart with wheels that allows him some mobility, but it does require it does require assistance to move. He's not very strong. And I actually thought that this might help with your investigation if you had a better understanding of the town and maybe some of its history. There is no one in town who knows as much about Etrin's Folly as my father. If you would do this for me, I would happily waive all of your fees while you are here. I am confident that you are going to get to the bottom of this investigation and you are going to reveal the killer.
I'm going to turn to the nearest person to me and just whisper really quietly.
Okay.
This gets fucking weirder and weirder.
Well, yeah, not only did you indicate that you waived the fees, now you're adding something on top of it and saying that you waive the fees. Like, we're very happy to take your father on whatever walk, and especially if we can gain some information from him, as long as it doesn't impede our investigation right now. But
well, I thought it would improve it, actually. I thought giving
yeah.
you access and history and knowing where things are and under the guise of taking a tour with Daddy, I thought that would be very helpful.
It might be. I will be the judge of that, but I'll take your. But let's not talk anymore about this because, as I've pointed out before, it is not our issue. It's with Tanley and you.
I will just say Theron hasn't had any breakfast yet, so he just needs a blueberry muffin. But Delma, we appreciate, no matter whose problem it is, that you recognize the services we are doing and that you want to help us in exchange. I suppose if Theron says we will gladly take the mayor around, then we will gladly take the mayor around.
For an old man, he is quite charming, a little bitter because of his lack of quality of life. Unfortunately, I have to take care of everything here at the feed mill, so that does not leave me much time to spend with Father, and regrettably, that has taken a toll on him as well. You'd be doing me a great favor.
May I ask just one thing? Why do you trust us with your father?
Well, because I figured it kills many birds with a single toss of a stone. He gets out, he gets some time about, you get to tour the city and hear from his perspective the history of things, and many questions you ask, he may be the only one capable of answering. I am not sure. I just believe it will help your investigation. And frankly, to send any of the staff of the feed mill to do this task would take them away from their work, and we would all suffer then. We're simply spread too thin.
What time do you want us to do this?
Well, after breakfast would be fantastic. He wakes early. He's up now, and unfortunately, he does not have much longevity in his day. After a few hours, he needs to sleep.
Well, we need to. Okay, give us directions.
She indicates the big house that's basically right across the street from the feed mill is where her father's home is, and she mentioned that her house is the other one behind that. So they're right there in that same kind of area just south of the feed mill. So she says, yes, you can't miss it. He has a prominent mayor's plaque hanging above the front door, and that's his home there. It's a little ostentatious now, but it was proper for the day when it was built.
Okay.
I'm going to turn to everyone else and say my main concern is, are we not more worried about talking to Finnick today or finding him first?
Yeah, that's priority. I mean, we need to talk to the dipshits first to see how they
Is she still in the room with us?
Is Delma still here?
Yeah.
Until you're basically, thank her, you're done with her. If you're ready to have private conversations. Yeah. She says, I will leave the baskets of muffins with you. Please enjoy them. And if you need anything more from me, you know where to find me.
Yes.
Thank you.
She goes up the ladder, makes her way across the rooms, doing that whole pick a few things up, drape a few things here, straighten, organize as she makes her way across. There is a high door and a low door. She goes through the high door and into the building. You hear the door close behind her. Chunk.
I cannot wait to leave this town. These people are insufferable.
This is truly the weirdest request I've ever received for room and board. I have been in a lot of places in my life, but never have I been asked to take the innkeeper's father on a day field trip.
I'll say.
I think that, so these are the challenges that we face. There's a lot of questions here. One, I don't know why you would kill somebody who kept on bringing you supplies and leave these two alive, and I poke them.
Yeah.
Two,
Are they still asleep? Are they still unconscious?
Where's the magistrate?
we met the magistrate. He's an idiot.
Yeah, they are still sleeping, seemingly less comatose, and now have transitioned into just dead asleep. Both of them have pissed themselves.
Well, of course they have.
Yeah.
The other thing is everybody in this town seems to dead set against us actually solving this crime. I mean, they want us to stay here for reasons that are beyond imagination because they think we may have done it. But everybody seems ignorant about everything that goes on in this town. Every other small town I've ever been in, everybody knows everybody else's business except here. So I have to assume that there are people in the town that know exactly what's going on, and they are trying to impede our progress. So we need to work around that. I say Electra stays here with the dipshits. We go talk to the mayor, and then very quickly, it's going to be a very fast walk. And then we head out on our investigation.
Okay. Referencing the map, you'll see that I have added the location of the old orchard, so you now have reference to where it's at. The feed mill is clearly on the map, and you could see that below that there are a couple, 3 houses. The 2 that are connected by the road are the mayor's, which is right across the street, which is due east of the feed mill. And then she lives in the house that's due south, that connects to the same kind of road and driveway there. So that is where we are at. So she indicates to you that father is up, and that whenever you are finished with your breakfast and you've finished with your discussions, you can just head right over there and have a chat with him. He has nothing else going on.
I have a question.
Yes.
Since we're detained here and we're supposed to stay, shouldn't the sheriff be paying for our room and board?
It's an interesting point. Maybe you should bring that up with the sheriff.
Oh, I will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this the idiot with a turnip badge?
Yeah, he's the turnip sheriff.
Yes, Rolf Garling. So you finish. Are you suiting up? Are you guys like going to full gear? Are you just wearing town clothes? How's everybody set? And other than Electra, who is in full armor, full weapons, she wears like a tunic or a cloak, a fine tunic over the top of that, so she's just not like broadcasting armor all the time, but she's always wearing it.
Electra, could you please watch these two while we go walk the dad?
Of course. Would you like them to remain unconscious if that state changes?
No. But keep them tied up. Make sure they don't
shrugs.
go anywhere.
She shrugs. You see a little disappointment in her face.
We need information from them. They need to be conscious at some point.
I'm going to completely armor up, weapons, armor, cloak.
Sure.
deal.
Yeah, I
Sure.
will too, because after this, we're going to.
Yep.
Same.
So-
Ready to rock and roll.
So before we leave, I mean, we should be finding Finnick here, right? When is he going to be getting here? Can I go find Delma and ask her when will Finnick be here? I know you don't know where he is and nobody knows anything, but can
He
you
show-
tell me when he usually shows up?
She already indicated last time you talked to her about his schedule that he shows up in the morning shift, which is a couple hours after sunup, and he usually goes home right after either the last meal served or the last chore is completed. Sometimes he leaves early because he doesn't need to be around for meals if it's not a big thing that's happening. So you have been woken up by Delma at sunup. So if he's on his proper schedule, Finnick should show up for today's shift in about an hour.
Okay, I agree with
Yep.
Theron then. I think it's going to be a very quick speed walk. I'm not going to armor up because I am tiny and I do not have armor, but I will grab my dagger and just kind of discreetly, like, I don't know if I can put it somewhere in my cloak, just kind of keep it close to be able to pull out really quickly in case of anything. I don't want to be walking around with it, but have it available.
Sure. Okay. Great. All right. So you make your way over to Targen's. Targen's. As I said, Targen is an older guy. You can tell he has a helper. I wouldn't call her a servant. She is an older woman from the village who comes and helps him take care of him. She, in her own right, is a little on the venerable side and, looks like she has no business doing chores and taking care of anyone, and yet she's doing it. She answers the door with a pleasant smile. She doesn't even need an explanation. She just sees you and nods and smiles and just opens the door and starts walking away from you, heading back to the kitchen or whatever chore she was doing before.
That's very trusting.
Armed strangers come and pick up your charge, and you're like, get rid of him.
In the room just inside the hallway, it's a fairly modest place, even for Etrin's Folly. It's more ostentatious on the outside. They spent a lot of money on how it presents on the outside. It's fairly plain on the inside. There's a hallway that leads to the back where presumably the kitchen is, and you can hear off to the left-hand side, you can hear a very old man's voice saying, What is it? What's happening? Who's there? Who's there?
My name is Theron, and we're here to take you on your morning stroll, sir.
Please come in. You must get closer. I cannot see well. I would get up to greet you in a proper accordance, but I'm afraid I have this thing with my legs now. And when he says that, you can hear him inhale. He has a bit of a wheeze when he inhales, and you can hear the squeak or the grind of a little bit of high-pitched metal on metal. You go into the room following his voice, and you see the mayor. He is already in his chair. It looks like they have modified like a vendor's push cart, and the area which would normally be the place where they would put wares and display them, they've removed that and kind of set a chair without its legs right there. So it's not a very good one, and it requires someone to, like a hand truck, when he's in it, you literally have to kind of push back on it and get him kind of on an angle to move forward with it. It's a very rudimentary design, but it looks like somebody spent a decent amount of time, at least to try to give him some mobility. When he hears you walking into the room, you can see him kind of turning his head from side to side, indicative of a blind man. One of his eyes looks frosted completely over with some kind of condition. The other eye he can see, but it does not look like he can see well. He says, "Please come in, come in. I am Targen Fulst. I am the mayor of Etrin's Folly. I welcome you to my home. My daughter speaks incredibly highly of you." And he's kind of moving his head around. He's sounding the room. He's hearing you kind of move in. There's no place really to sit down in this room. It looks like they've cleared most of the furniture away so that they can wheel him around. And this cart thing is, kind of on the bigger side. So there's no place to sit down in here. There is a table off to one side that has a pitcher with some water, and there's a basin that you can wash in if you want to. And besides that, it looks like all the bookshelves, all the books have been taken off the bookshelves. So they're just barren and empty, save for a couple of bookends here and there that aren't being used. They're just kind of occupying space. It's a very kind of a sad looking room. There is a big bay window where you can see he's currently carted in front of, and he's basically just parked in front of the window, even though he really can't see out of it all that well. So he's kind of fumbling with his cart. He's trying to turn himself, but he has not the strength to move this thing even a little bit, even to position himself on it.
Well, Daisy's kind of got the build of an orderly, so
you take the initiative to
yeah. And assuming he's hard of hearing, he's like, "We're gonna take you on a walk around town. Wouldn't that be nice?"
He says, "For crumb's sake, I'm blind, not deaf. Stop yelling at me."
Sorry, sir.
But and when he feels you starting to get on the cart, you can tell he kind of leans his weight back into it. He's not fighting you. At least there's no fear that he's going to come falling out the front of it, right? So he leans back in and he goes, "Oh, thank you, very kind, very kind. You smell delicious."
Must be the blueberries.
So you spin him around towards the rest of the group. And he says, I can't thank you enough. This is absolute treasure for me to feel the sun on my face and to smell familiar things and to make a presence in the town so they know their mayor is still alive and still loves them. This is very, very important to me, and I owe all of you my deepest gratitude.
Well, that's good. It's going to be a quick walk.
He's over to you. He goes, "Oh, I have an itinerary and I have several stops we were going to be making." And he nods. He goes, I smell. He stops himself. You hear him in. He kind of turns and he's like, Margaret. She doesn't answer. He goes, "That woman is useless."
Alrighty,
So
Daisy, let's get going.
Shall we begin?
Yes.
You are staying at the feed mill, so I would like us to go up the drive past the feed mill. I will tell you about its history as we make our way across the town towards the Plaguestone. I have many things to share with you, my new friends. He asks each one of your names so he can match a voice to the name. And seems very pleased. He asks what everyone what are you and what are you and what are you and what they he's curious about everyone's ancestry, just because I guess he works off of smells these days. So wheeling him is no easy measure. Daisy was able to easily do it in the house. As long as you're on even terrain or even surface, it's fairly easy to do. It looks like they took a metal, a couple of wheels off of a loom is what they remind you of. And it looks like they've adapted them for this purpose. So he has these big chunky wheels in the back instead of those small ones that the merchants usually roll. And it's not easy. Once you get him out of the house and you get him on uneven pavement, Daisy, you quickly realize that you're going to need help. And it's going to take two of you, one on either side, to kind of manage, because the slightest little stuck in a rut or a rock gets caught under the wheel, and you're So besides Daisy, does anyone else want to step up when you see him struggling with it?
I can help. I just don't know if I'm tall enough. I'm strong enough. I just don't know if I'm tall enough.
Yeah,
On that note, I try to start getting on his shoulders to try to reach his height, but I still don't think we're going to be tall enough.
I will help with the pushing. Simon or Desna, can you find a board or something in case we hit a patch where we need to use some leverage to get over it?
Yeah, I'll go look around for a board.
I'm sure something along those lines can be found here in the stables. There's probably some part of a bit and bridle that can be manipulated for that purpose, and you can kind of make a board or make a piece of lumber work out of that. Okay. As you start the tour, right? As you start the tour, you get it working as easily as possible, and it's slow and go. Targen seems to be an incredibly proud man. And when he starts talking about the history, his demeanor definitely changes. His face looks like he's constantly kind of wrought with pain. So he's got that kind of, sad little tightness about him. When he begins to speak about the history about this place, you see his demeanor change. His face loosens up. His whole approach kind of changes, like an anxiety is lifted off of him while he's speaking. It's noticeable to all of you. Perhaps it's because his wrinkled face shows that pain and that remorse so much. He says the feed mill is the town's only major business. I opened the feed mill more than 50 years ago, before the Goblin Wars. My brother died in that conflict, along with much of Targen's, with as much of my extended family. The town itself avoided the worst of that conflict, which occurred primarily west of here. Simon, when he asked you what you were, did you share your ancestry with him?
Yes.
All right. Okay. When you told him you were a goblin, he made a face.
The war's over, old man.
Yeah, he made like one of those southern kind of historical kind of. He made that face. Yeah. So when he brings up the Goblin Wars, you kind of go, oh, I understand. You make your way across town. He has you cutting back towards the Plaguestone, and he says, I'm sure you've seen it, but you haven't seen it as I see it, or for as long.
Well, you don't see it.
It's true. It's true. I don't see it anymore. I see it in my mind, and I'm sure when we get close to it, I will be able to smell the soil of the street, and that helps to reinforce my memory. The path next leads to the Plaguestone, which was used to give food and aid to those suffering from the plague. He tells you that the plague in Etrin's Folly was a horrible time, and when it came, people were more concerned with pointing fingers and placing blame than they were about preventing its spread. And unfortunately, like a fire, it did so. There was a woman, a witch by the name of Silwith. Most people suspect that she was the one that started the plague. No, I don't think so. No one listened to me. After Silwith caught the plague herself, She cursed the town's only priest at the time before she died. That was Father Bolgrist, a good man, headstrong, very stubborn, but a good man, golden heart. Soon after she proclaimed her curse upon him, Father Bolgrist contracted the plague and he died. The witch had a daughter named Vilry, who stuck around her mother's home for the first year or so. She probably died or ran off herself.
Probably.
What was that name again?
The daughter's name was Vilry. The woman's name, her mother, was Silwith. And the priest was Father Bolgrist. I can see their faces as if they were all still alive today. Interesting thing when you start to lose your vision, your brain, your mind begins to compensate with images that you didn't think you still had. I had forgotten many things, and now the images flood into my head on a daily basis. It does make this life worth living. From there, he wants to go north. He wants to go up into the dead homes.
All right.
He
So
says, go ahead.
I'm sorry. While we're walking, can as he pauses in between stories,
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak up and just say, you said that you spoke to Delma this morning, right?
Not this morning. I spoke to her last night.
Does she stay with you? She stays separately to the south, right? Is that correct?
Yes. My daughter does not live in my home, but she is. And he points as if he's sitting in his spot. She lives over there, is what he says. She lives over there. Well, from my home.
Sure. What did Delma tell you last night?
About what?
Anything. What was your conversation with Delma last night? I'm just a little confused. We were welcomed into your home with open arms this morning, and I'm just not sure what conversation has led to these events.
He says, I'm not sure I understand.
Well, you said that she spoke highly of us.
Yes, she did. She spoke very highly of you.
In what context? We were not here before last night, so you can see my confusion as to why you already have a knowledge of us.
Well, she checks on me every night before I go to bed, dear. That's when we spoke. She told me that the caravan was in town, and she told me that besides the usual teamsters that come along with the caravan, there was the group of you, and she had some interesting things to say about all you. It's not every day that we get dwarves and elves and goblins in Etrin's Folly.
But she spoke of no... Did she tell you nothing odd about the night before?
Odd about the night before? I don't believe so.
So you don't know that Bort is dead?
What? No, Bort is not dead.
What in the world is going on?
Not that he doesn't deserve to be so, certainly, swindler. But
What do you mean, swindler?
Bort has taken me at the gambling table more than once in the past. So many times I would believe that it's not a matter of chance. But
maybe you're just a really bad gambler.
Perhaps. Now I don't even have the opportunity to win back that stake. I can't even see the cards anymore in my hands. I am very, very troubled by... You're not joking about you're not trying to have an old man, are you? This is a very serious matter.
Dead serious.
This is a very serious, dead serious. Yes, Thermon.
Tears. His eyes just start streaming. His eyes just start streaming tears. Strangely enough, it's like
told you this
completely out of character for him.
So Bort had some dealings with the person in town we only know as H from his book. Does that ring a bell at all? He made some
Well.
deliveries to a person he only referred to as H.
Well, there's Holland. Holland starts with an H.
Who is Holland?
Holland is
That's that big bald guy, right?
yes. He's large. He does prefer to shave his head, and well, he doesn't bother an old man. But I hear plenty of those who have no love for Holland.
To put it lightly, the town bully.
Yes, it's true. Every town has one or two that they're not terribly fond of. Well, I suppose Holland is ours. That is the only H I can think of.
I have one more question for you. Why do you think Delma did not inform you of this last night? How did she inform you of us, but yet not the most important event of the night?
He makes a face. He makes a frumpy face. And he says, my daughter does not believe that I have the capacity to handle knowing the day-to-day of the city anymore. She largely lets me keep the mayor title because it has been this way for my entire life. She only tells me the good things. She never tells me of the bad.
Did she not? I'm sorry. Did she not assume that we would not bring such an important matter up to the mayor?
Perhaps she did. Perhaps this is easier for her. I cannot speak for my daughter. I just know this is not the first time that she has selectively shared things that happen with me. I don't get much visits. I don't get around the town much. If it does not come from her, it does not usually get to me. This is why I treasure my time with you so much, and I appreciate you not rushing through it, Sir Dwarf.
So I'm going to pace back with Kira and just look up at her and ask, what do you think of all these weird people?
I never had a good feeling about the bald gentleman that gave us the mean mug when we were passing through initially. He's always giving me a bad vibe, so I'm not very surprised by this.
You'll remember when you first saw him, he was literally beating Finnick up. He was yelling at Finnick for doing everything wrong, and he was basically backhanding him is what you that's kind of like first impression. When you first saw him, he was physically abusing Finnick. He as you lead through the dead homes after visiting the Plaguestone, he guides you through the north side of town where most of the plague victims lived, coincidentally. Most of their homes to this day remain empty and in a terrible state of disrepair. Targen tells you that it is his embarrassment alone that there are those very poor and desperate who actually call this part of the town their home. And he does look like he is wrought with some shame over that. He tells you as you circle around, you circle around across from west to east across the deads, and he tells you that there is a path which runs along the outside of the eastern side of town. It's called the Drunken Shepherd's Path because long ago there was a shepherd who lived here in Etrin's Folly, and of course he loved his drink, and he would just get hammered drunk, and he would stumble his way home, and although he could have cut straight through town and got home a lot quicker, he always managed to take this wide, staggering path, and as a result they've called it the Drunk Shepherd's Path ever since. It leaves the north side of town And he says he wants to walk along that path. It wanders right through the turnip farms around the edges of town. He mentions that all of the turnip farms here were once sheep pastures, and Etrin's Folly was once that's all they did was raise and sheep and shorn them and make wool. He says the last large flock left town years ago. So with the plague, no one wanted livestock from a plague-stricken area. So people just moved their herds away, and the area never really recovered. So along this path, it leads to an old shrine, about the middle of it, in the middle of an ancient copse of old trees. He notes that through the old woods there, that shrine is currently dedicated to Gazra, and it has served other purposes in the past. He tells you that in more ancient times, druids used to gather at that shrine long ago. When Father Bogris died, nobody worshipped here anymore. Unfortunately, the shrine is home to nothing but overgrown weeds now. But the followers of the Green Faith still believe it is a conduit to power. Perhaps you want to go have a better look.
Kira, aren't you able to detect magic? Can you maybe do a little something over there?
Yeah, I can absolutely detect magic. I have a 30-foot emanation rate for it.
Sure. All right. So you cast detect magic. You kind of do the scan of the area. There are no obvious dwellers of magic necessarily. The shrine itself doesn't radiate. Although one thing does happen. As you raise your commanding spellcasting voice when you make your spell and you complete your spellcasting, you're passing through the copse of the trees, you're looking back, you're looking forward, and all of you can see that there is movement in the trees. There are a number of creatures that were perched up in the trees that are now have been agitated by the sounds of the spellcasting, presumably, or just your presence being here. They first move by clawing from branch to branch. They are small cat-sized creatures. They have a mosquito-like proboscis on the front of their heads, and they have these little claws on the ends of attached wing structures with legs that aren't really used for walking on, kind of thing. And these things kind of move through the trees very herky-jerky as they're clawing and looking at what you are. Then you see their wings unfold, and they have not one but two sets of wings. They are reptilian, looking kind of leathery in their makeup, but their shape is kind of insect-like because the way the wings fold. And the trees come alive with a buzzing that you can feel resonating in your chest as these four creatures leap out of the trees at the party.
You're all Sturges! Yeah, Daisy yells.
I'm casting Mage Armor
Load in the crossbow.
because I hadn't done that today yet.
So, I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to conclude for this session. Session 8 ends with the blood seekers coming out of the trees, coming at the party.
Nope.
And we will pick up at the beginning on episode 9. I hope you guys had fun today. The investigation continues. Good stuff. If you're wondering where Electra has been, if you're wondering where Jet Boogie has been, she will be joining us again. You know, sometimes life gets in the way, and right now she's with us, and we're with her in spirit, and we hope she's going to be back with us ASAP. Mwah. Much love to you, girl. And to everyone else, thank you. Ocho, this is our 8th one going in. Thank you, Busters, for joining us. And we will see you for number 9.